Hey everybody, what's up? We are back. Welcome to the Daily Fan Racing NASCAR DFS preview show. Good Lord. Already, it's been a long break, so we're already off to a rough start, but we are live on a Saturday evening to preview, that's right, the Richmond night race. NASCAR is back, baby. Truck race is on in the background, right? I'm back talking with my buddy, the man who's going to make me a rich man at Richmond, Ryan Larkin. Ryan, it's good to be back, right?
It's great to be back. It was a wonderful break, very refreshing, but definitely excited to get back into the swing of things. We got 4 strong months coming ahead, so lots of racing to get back into. But yeah, it's amazing how refreshed you feel after like a full week off. So I feel good. I love Richmond. Richmond's always been good to me. So hoping for good things.
Let's talk about the week off before we get into talking about the NASCAR. The Olympic break. Did you get out and actually touch some grass? And in the 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, did you get a chance to do something?
No, my wife took my my oldest kid to the beach, so I was stuck home babysitting the whole time. But just kind of sat around, didn't do much. Went bowling yesterday. I want to buy a bowling alley, so if anyone wants to finance that, let me know. But no, I like.
Did you watch the Olympics?
No, I don't care about the Olympics.
Yeah, man, me neither. I didn't watch 1 second of the Olympics. I didn't watch one at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a lack of like love for my country or if it's just
boring, man. I don't know. Yeah, I really thought, man, you were gonna have been like hardcore in the Olympics because you love boring. You love boring stuff, right? Like if it's boring, you love it. Like I thought you were gonna come and tell me like you were watching like endurance swimming or some bullshit like that. And like,
I love some curling, but that's Winter Olympics. So give me a couple years and I'll be all about that.
All right. Well, speaking of boring, right, that leads us to where we're at, right? It's been kind of a rough stretch. I feel like with NASCAR, since we've had 5 overtimes at Nashville, I feel like it's been downhill. We've had Pocono terrible, we've had Indy terrible, we've had 3 weeks off, and now we get back to Richmond. I know you like Richmond because you like boring, but somehow I find myself like Richmond wasn't even we didn't even have this on the schedule at all to preview any Richmond races this year, and now we'll have done both of them this year. Somehow that'll work in. But Richmond.
Yeah, it worked in because the race starts at 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. So we figure we can get more views on our YouTube show by starting this late. So if you're watching, thanks.
And if that works, like, subscribe, right? Why? Since you found us, since we had a little extra time,
since you're here. I always see the statistics that only like 40% of viewers or 30% of viewers are actually subscribers. So for the other 70%, click the button. But yeah, Richmond, I enjoy Richmond. So here's the thing, and this is a personal thing, I guess. It's all about what you like in life. Like some people like skinny chicks, some people like fat chicks, whatever. I like boring racing.
Which one is Richmond?
Right? I like boring racing because I like racing that actually plays out in a normal manner. I like watching the best cars, best drivers have a say and getting the finishes they deserve. I don't like what we saw at the end of Indy with John Hunter Nemechek throwing a block, wiping out 15 guys, and we just have all this nonsense. The 4 or 5 overtimes, all that nonsense is not what I like in racing. I like races that reward the fastest cars, the best drivers, the best teams, where you see a 100-lap run and you see strategy involved. Okay, when do I pit for tires? Is it better short pit, run long? All that strategy is playing out. There's so much more thinking and actual processing happening versus, well, I'm just going to ship this car in here and hope it sticks. I don't care if they wreck. Like, that shit just drives me crazy. So, yeah, I like Richmond. I like the racing we get here. I think for the most part, these races haven't been boring. I don't think any of the races have really been boring in the last 2 years here.
Richmond's been a lot better. Like, Richmond used to be terrible, but it's gotten a lot better, I'll say.
And it's because passing is actually possible, right? Like, it's easier to pass here than it is at Martinsville. It's easier.
Or is it just all the other short tracks are just shit now?
Yeah, that too. But that's all short tracks everywhere. Like, I feel like people envision the past where Dale Earnhardt's wrecking someone, or Kevin Harvick and Ricky Rudd get into it at Richmond. They're like, oh man, all the races on short tracks back in the day were just they beat the shit out of each other and then they fought. That's not what short track racing is. It's not what it ever was. It's not what it should be, right? It's you go to your local short track, it's 150 laps of riding around. The best guys are leading the whole damn time. That's just the way it kind of is. And I think we romanticize it sometimes because we see these, like
No, they were
cars
great.
where this year's had like 4 finishes of the guy just pushing each other out of the way, just not even racing each other, just shipping it in. They're sending them up the road. And it's like, that's not racing. That's not what racing used to be anyways. And, it honestly, the last 2 or 3 years have made me respect Martin Truex so much more, like so much more. I was never a fan, never really cared. He was just kind of whatever to me. But the more I see it and the more I think about it, and the more it's just like, that's the cleanest damn dude out there. And I respect that. Like that's what I want out of a driver, So yeah, Richmond gives us that type of racing. We typically don't see any beating and banging for the most part. We may get a moment or two, but it's a lot more traditional racing the racetrack, trying to be as fast as you can. And that's why I love it.
Okay, so with it, being at Richmond and, with it, being a track that not a lot happens, we don't tend to see, well, we do see some variance, right, with kind of how guys come out. But typically, lower variance with cars wrecking out seems to be, you feel like it might be a little bit more of a predictable race, right? Since the stronger cars are typically make it to the front, more predictable. So do you approach a slate like Richmond differently than a slate normal week, as opposed to like, are you coming in and maybe putting a little bit more on a slate like this that might be more predictable? Or are you narrowing lineups down? Is there any difference to your approach at Richmond than, let's say, a normal week?
Well, in past years, I've loaded up at Richmond. It's definitely been a track I've really liked, and one piece of predictability. Like I feel like your best drivers certainly shine more often than not, but the tire situation this week's kind of spicing it up, and so I'm not entirely sure. It's all going to depend on how I wake up, I guess.
Let's talk about the tires, and let's lead into that. Talk about the tires. What's going on with the tire situation?
So after the All-Star race, where we had 2 different tires, we had a soft tire, which is called the option tire, I think, or the prime tire. I don't know why NASCAR is doing this. I can't get it straight. It's a soft tire and the normal tire. But the red lettered soft tire is supposed to be faster early in a run, but then give up more on the back end. We ran it at North Wilkesboro, and that wasn't the case. The tires plateaued basically 40 laps into a run. The tires ran the same pace. Joe Logano never even changed off of, he didn't come in and use tire strategy. He's like, nope, I'm just going to run these red tires to the end. And it made no difference. So, now, North Wilkesboro is a brand new surface. This is obviously one of the older surfaces, and maybe there'll be more tire wear that kind of exacerbates that. But for the most part, we didn't see any great effect from having a softer tire and like the normal tire. That is concerning heading into this race. I'm not so confident that we'll see a huge difference between the 2 tires in terms of long run speed. But at some point, I do think it will affect things. I think the biggest area is going to affect things, and we'll talk about this more later, is fast laps. I think we'll see guys put these red tires on at different times of the race and click off 10, 15 fast laps. Oh, Dean Thompson crashes.
That's like, that happens every week, right?
Yeah, you're like a minute behind me, but yeah, Dean Thompson wrecked, no surprise. And then Thad Moffitt, about 30 seconds after they wrecked, destroyed them. He said, fuck them.
Terrible. Come on.
Just cleaned them out. But yeah, so I think the biggest impact this week with these soft tires, there's 2 sets. They're going to be used at different times. I think most of the front runners are probably going to try to save 1 set for the end of the race. And then other teams are going to try to work with that. Shit, I need Massey to have a good day. Crap. But yeah, I think most of the teams are going to, try to work in that the tires based off of whether they're going to fall a lap down or not. So the first stage is going to be a shorter stage. If someone's running like 18th, they may go a lap down during that, if it's a long green flag run. They may put those red tires on that second half of that first stage to try to preserve their lead lap running, right? So I think that's where things could get shaken up with the tires in this race. And if that happens, whichever drivers are putting those red tires on in the middle of a green flag run, they're going to click off fast laps. They're going to, really boost their score. So someone like Ty Dillon could be like, yeah, I'm just going to put the reds on this time. Click off 20 fast laps and really boost their score. So I think that's where this is really going to play into things. As far as the front runners, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of difference between like Hamlin and all those guys. The only time it may show up is if someone's running like 5th and they had already used their red set of tires, their soft tires, and everyone else has them, they may struggle to retain track position, right? So they may get a worse finish. But
Did we see any of that play out as far as the speed in practice? Is there anything to see that? Because I know, I mean, because this
Not
is
really,
NASCAR,
honestly.
because NASCAR has these ideas, right? And I never see them work, right? They didn't work at North Wilkesboro. I know it's just track is different, but like, is it silly to invest too much in? Like, is it even going to do anything? Like, is it going to make any difference in the track? Or is that why I'm looking at practice speeds and I'm seeing things like, I mean, Austin Dillon being pretty freaking fast, right? And
Woohoo!
Yeah.
The real issue is that it's Richmond. They're long green flag runs. You don't have short runs. So you're not just going to throw on a set of reds and take off with them because you're going to burn them up just like you would burn up any tire. So even with the reds on, you're going to conserve tire. You're not going to be pushing all out. So to me, it's kind of like, okay, maybe you're a 10th or two faster, but I don't think it's enough to really make up positions. If you do use it to make up positions, on the back end, you may get killed. And so that's why I think the wisest thing to do is really, and when you look at the first stage, most of these teams are going to split that first stage in half, right? Just run the second part of the first stage on the reds, then save the last one for the later race. And I think that's the way most teams are going to use it. Is like if you
so they have to use them, right? They don't have enough tires to not use them.
Yeah, I think they only got like 8 sets total plus the set they qualified on. So 9 sets. I mean, they should have 1 or 2 sets left over if it runs green. If you get a couple extra cautions, then they'll start using them. It's just you're only going to want to use those red tires. They're soft for like 30 laps. And then they're going to start falling off more. So I think realistically, you use them on the back end of like the first stage, or if you two-stop the second stage, you use it on the last stint of that one, or depending on how you want to shake it up. But you're just trying to, like in F1, you're trying to get to a certain amount of point or a certain point in a certain amount of time. So it's like, I want to get to the end of stage 2 in however amount of time, and the red tires are going to get me there. And that'll keep me on the lead lap, or that'll keep me in the top 10, and that's the way I think it's going to be strategized. So I do think we'll get some shaking up depending on when teams use those red tires. But for the most part, I don't think it's really going to affect the running order too much. I think it's just fast laps on the DFS side that'll get affected. And then if someone just massively screws up that strategy and gets caught with their pants down, or tries to get cute and like they use both their reds in the first and second stage, and then the final stage they don't have them, that's where it can maybe hurt them. But if that final stage runs green, which it's Richmond, so it can, they may not need them. You may not even need those red sets because you're one stopping or whatever versus the field. So I don't know. I'm not trying to read too much into how it actually affects things other than fast laps for us.
Yeah. Okay. But it is enough of a wild card factor for the race to make you kind of maybe pull in the reins a little bit on what you probably would have put in on it. So that's
because you don't know when you're going to be super heavy on a guy. Like I'll throw Brad Keselowski out there. If Brad finishes like 7th to 10th or 12th, really, really good play, right? From where he starts. But what if he uses up his reds before then? We get a caution on 30 to go. He doesn't have them. He restarts 8th and then drops to 15th or 17th because he's the only one without the good tires. All of a sudden, he went from a great play to a really a chalk killer at that point, only scoring 32 points or whatever. So that would be the way I think it really affects the slate the most. And that is a possibility, and that does add extra variance. So that does kind of make me a little skittish to be like, yeah, I'm going to go play more. But at the end of the day, that can happen to anyone. That can work in your favor. You could be off of the play that it affects, right? So you never know. It's probably just something to add a little bit more confusion than anything else, and it probably won't really affect anything. And you should probably just play like we do.
Right. Yeah. Probably right. Right. We normally tend to overanalyze these things, and then they happen, and it's like nowhere what we thought was going to happen anyway. So let's talk about Dominators, right? So 400 lap race, we're playing, we're prioritizing Dominator points today, right? I know we did Richmond, earlier. It's that same story, right? We really want to prioritize those Dominator points today, like with all those laps, correct?
Yeah. 400 laps, you got a ton of Dominator points out there. Typically, we see 1 or 2 guys lead over 100 laps, sometimes over 200 laps. And so those guys can really rack up the Dominator points and separate themselves. We saw here in the spring, Denny Hamlin won the race, but he wasn't optimal because he didn't actually get enough Dominator points. It was Truex and Larson that crushed in that department. So even if you have a guy that dominates 150 laps, they can not win the race. They can finish like 7th. They have so many Dominator points pulled up that they can supersede what the race winner does. So, yeah, we're chasing Dominator points all day. The only thing that's going to be different than a lot of weeks or something that we think a lot about is fast laps. a lot of times we go into a race like this, 400 laps, we're like, oh man, the race dominator may have 100 fast laps or something, right? That's not the case here because of where everyone pits. You got some guys, if it's a 90 lap stage or 80 lap stage, you got guys that will pit on lap 30, lap 35, lap 40, lap 50. Some guys will stretch it, some guys won't. And those fast laps just get spread across the entire group, right? And so it's not a situation where the leader's just out there, he's clicking off all the fast laps. He may get a good chunk in the first part of that run, but then the guys that pitted first start getting them. Then the guys that pitted later start getting them. In reality, it kind of caps the fast lap upside of certain guys, and that feels counterintuitive. It doesn't mean that Danny Hamlin or Martin Truex or some of the top guys can't go out there and get 50, 60 fast laps. They absolutely can. But it's just less common for them to just smash in fast laps because of people on new tires just grabbing them. And that's going to be exacerbated if those mid to back tier guys are throwing on sets of reds mid-race. Remember, keep in mind, those guys are only a couple tenths, 2-3 tenths off of speed, right? I mean, the difference between first and 30th is a lot different than it used to be. So giving Daniel Hemrick or John Hunter Nemechek an extra 3 tenths of speed on these red tires, they can start clicking off fast laps even if they aren't good enough, right? So I think, in terms of laps led, that's where you really want to focus your attention. There's going to be someone that goes out there and leads 150, 200 laps. There's going to be another guy that leads 100 laps. And there's probably going to be another guy or two that leads like 50 or 60 or 70 as well. So, 2 to 3 dominators is what I like to do. It's probably 2 dominators in Keselowski or 3 dominators is probably what you're doing for the most part. But depending, there could be a late wreck as well that maybe takes out a dominator and that really shakes things up. But for the most part, I want 2 dominators. I really want to hone in on those guys and be heavy on whoever I think it's going to be. Because if it hits similar to like Enfinger tonight, he came in at fraction what Eckes and Majeski came in at, and I'm sitting really pretty because I have 66% Enfinger, right? So that's just the type of situation you can play with. But I think those dominators are the most important, and I think the way we shake up the bottom tier is going to be the next most important.
And to your point about fast laps and like them getting spread around a little bit, right? Because people getting off strategy, that can be kind of unpredictable, right? So do you find yourself maybe spreading out exposure a little bit in a race like this to maybe guys who are going to be lower owned because the off chance they do get off kilter, right? And you pick up 20 to 30 fast laps from those guys and can get, some points that everybody else might not have overlooked, right? Because, somebody can just have random upside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that you said it best. Like you got a guy like Daniel Hemrick or anyone back there that could just pit or run. Most likely they're going to run long. So, and Daniel Hemrick, I think, is the guy that did this in the spring. I can't remember who it was, or he may have done a different race. But essentially, everyone pits halfway through that stage or a little bit before halfway, and they try to run to the end on the first step. But Daniel Hemrick's going to be a lap down, right? He's going to be put a lap down on speed. The way they can counteract that is to run as long as they can, hope for a caution in those 20 or 25 laps. And if they don't get one, put on the tires and just run as hard as you can to get, back on to just 1 lap down. For them, their best strategy play is to run long. And so that's going to happen. And it may not be Hemrick. It may be any of those guys towards the back. It may be Ty Dillon. It may be John Hunter Nemechek. It may be Justin Haley. It may be Todd Gilliland or Michael McDowell. It could be anyone in that range. McDowell's definitely the type of guy and team that have done that. And so once they're pitting on lap 55 versus everyone pitting on lap 35 or 40, they have 15 lap fresher tires. And so they start clicking off those fast laps and boosting their score out of nowhere. And you're sitting there like, holy crap, how does this guy have 40 fast laps at the end of the race? And it pisses you off because you don't have them. But that's what happens here. And it happens every single race. So spreading around in that bottom tier is going to be key because you don't know who it is. It is a bit of randomness. And that's why I like really honing in on who you think is going to dominate and then mixing and matching at the bottom.
Yeah, just looking at loop data from spring race here. But yeah, guys who randomly got fast laps. You had Michael McDowell got 22, right? You had Bubba got 20. Ryan Blaney, he got 30. But I think that was he did get off kilter. Right? I think he had something go wrong where he had a pit stop that got off. So yeah, those were kind of the 3 guys who stood out looking at that. All right, let's get into it. I know we're pretty far into the show. We haven't started talking drivers yet. We want to talk all the plays here. If you guys are new here, we are going to we'll recap it all at the end. Larkin will give his core 4 guys not to play, and then 4 more leverage guys. So we'll talk about all the drivers and we'll sum it up on the end. Again, if you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We do these shows every couple weeks, so I think we're gonna have a few week break off, so that way notify you, subscribe for when we release these next. And I know Larkin has a special he's running over at the Daily Fan Racing. So you want to tell him about what you got going on over there at Daily Fan Racing for the rest of the season?
Yeah, real quick. So all the premium content is at dailyfanracing.com. So full articles, projections, the whole lot, rankings. This podcast, if me and Jason aren't doing one, I do a podcast for every race. So when we're not doing the free one and having fun, I'm doing one on my own on the premium site. But sometimes I'll have guests in there. Anyways, if you sign up now, first month, 20% off with promo code racing. So if you want to sign up, try us out for this month, you get 20% off. If you want to go ahead and sign up for the rest of the year, it's we have a link and a special for 20% off the rest of the year, which is essentially like getting a month free. The racing season runs all the way through early December with F1. So we have a lot of racing to go. So if you want to sign up, you can do that. Take advantage of the promo. If I know a few people definitely canceled when the break came up, when we had like a 2-3 week break with no racing. It made logical sense. So hopefully you guys can take advantage of that, sign back up and come join us for the rest of the year. And go from there. I like doing the end of year special just to, because it's so simple. It's like sign up now, paid, and then you're done. So hopefully people sign up, take advantage of it. If not, that's fine. But I like throwing it out there for anyone that wants to join up.
Yeah, I suggest you guys definitely strongly recommend taking advantage of that, getting that discount. A lot of racing, a lot of action, a lot of money to be won from now until the end of the season. But let's start now. Give them a taste of what they're going to get their money's worth out of, right? Let's give them some winners. Let's give them the plays to get through Richmond. Let's start. Let's go this week. Let's start from the high salary and start working our way down. I think that's where kind of the Dominators are going to be. So I think we can start at the top, right? Let's talk about the Dominators. This is where, where our slate is going to be made or broken with these guys, right? These guys at the top. So let's start, with the man up top, right? I know you kind of maybe mentioned him earlier, the Richmond King, right? Denny Hamlin, he's got 5 wins here in his career on the pole here at Richmond. The last time he started on the pole at Richmond, he won and led 189 laps. So where do you stand on Denny Hamlin this week?
I'm going to be playing a lot of Denny Hamlin at Richmond from the pole. JGR cars have been the truth on short flat tracks this year. Denny Hamlin won this race here in the spring. Martin Truex dominated that race. Now you're giving me Denny Hamlin from the pole with the number 1 pit stall. Yeah, this is a no-brainer for me. Gonna load up on Denny Hamlin and gonna load up on Martin Truex as well. Heading into any Martinsville or Richmond race for like the past 10 years, it feels like those have been the 2 guys, and we're getting them in a year where their team has dominated on short flash tracks. You got them both in position to dominate from the front row, both with great pit stalls, great with fast cars. So, it's the perfect situation to really hammer in on Hamlin and Truex. And I love both plays. The only downside is we're talking chalk, right? We're talking huge ownership numbers about to come in on these guys. So do they pay off? Do they lead? Do they, justify the ownerships that they're going to give us?
Yeah, I know like Hamlin and Truex, right? They have the lore of being, the Richmond gods, right? But I will point out, right? You mentioned, Hamlin won the spring race here. He started 11th and he was not optimal, right? In fact, he has won 2 races here in the next gen era, and he has not been optimal in any of those races, right? He's not been optimal in next gen. Truex, he has been optimal in 2 of 5, so he's obviously done a little better. Does that? I know. I mean, obviously, it doesn't concern you at all, right? You're not fazed by that at all, right?
I think the biggest thing, especially with Hamlin later in his career, is he's gotten real like early in the spring.
I think he's patient. I don't want to break you off, but I think he's patient, right? I know he's not a guy who's going to go out there and try to get a ton of fast laps. Like he's not worried about pushing that race out. He knows he's so confident in Richmond. He knows you don't have to lead every lap, right? Like even starting on the pole, I think if somebody wants to push him early, he's just going to let him go. Like he's not going to fight them and feel like he'll still score 30 fast laps, right? But
yeah, and that's really it. Like starting 13th, he started in the teens, I think 11th and 13th in those races. He wasn't in a hurry to get up front, and because we talked about the fast laps getting spread out. He wasn't able to click off all those fast laps that we would hope he would, because those fast laps get spread out. So even though he may have been the fastest car or one of the best cars on those days, he wasn't able to accumulate the massive, Dominator points that we would look for. Those were the guys that led all the laps, right? So that would be the case if he's not starting on the pole, but he's starting first. He's going to have the number one pit stall. So even if he falls to second or third, he's going to have a really good opportunity to get that back, because he has a top 5 pit crew. Number one pit stall is important. And so I think even if he kind of loses the lead at some point or something, like, he's going to constantly be towards the front. And I just expect him to be the best car in general. But even if he's not, even if he's second or third best car, there's going to be a chunk of fast laps. I do think he leads a lot here to start the race. And then at points in the race where maybe he falls to second or third, he can easily gain that back on pit road. So I just feel a lot better about him from pole, getting a lot more Dominator points than he did in those races. But your point is true. Like he has not dominated to the point that you would think.
I have another point, though, to a wrench in your plan about the point about the pole sitter, right? The Larson in the spring, starting the pole, but that was the first time a pole sitter has been optimal at Richmond since the spring of 2021. So there was a stretch there we didn't really see the pole sitter pay off. So, like I said, these are just numbers on a screen, right? They don't mean anything. It's still Denny Hamlin, the king at Richmond, starting on the pole. It's a different scenario than what we've seen in the past, but those are just little details, wrinkles there that could. So I'm guessing it's Hamlin 1, Truex 1B. Is that kind of where you see it?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think there's a vast difference between Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin, and that's the one thing I'll say from that stat is, Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney are two of the guys that I say are not good at this style of racing, which is high tire wear tracks, especially at Richmond. And those were the two pole sitters that really stick out that, like, okay, they got the pole, they led a bunch of laps early, and then they kind of faded. They didn't get the finishes they deserved maybe. But Denny Hamlin will be there all race. I feel pretty confident Denny Hamlin is going to be there all race. So I feel a lot better. And, I think it's a 1A, 1B thing. Truex lit up the show in the spring, and that definitely feels plausible again. I think it should be pretty close between those two. And honestly, I can see it being an equal split. Truex led 228 laps here in the spring. He was super, super strong, and I expect him to be strong again. The issue with him is he just doesn't really win here. He doesn't always get the finishes he deserves. So we'll see if that trend continues. But I do think those are the two guys, the two favorites to lead. It doesn't mean they will be the guys. It doesn't mean when they drop the green flag that someone else won't be better, Chase Elliott or something. But those are the top two guys. Those are the two smart picks heading into it. Doesn't always mean it works out, though.
I don't want to keep drilling it, but one more quick note about Truex. Does him and his crew chief relationship that we know has been terrible with the fact that we need good pit strategy here? Does that concern us at all this week?
No.
Okay.
Right. You can't screw up needing tires. I think they
okay, hey man. Like I just
think although I can see that James Small being like, let's throw these reds on right now.
Yeah, the only one he seems to do the shit that like everybody does one thing and he does it like the stupid shit the other way. Like it never works out. Like he's the guy that does shit the opposite way that doesn't work out. Like it's not like why the hell are you doing that when he does stuff? But yeah, whatever. So that would be a little bit of concern. But the books agree with you, right? Hamlin plus 350, Truex plus 450, the odds-on favorites here. So let's talk about a guy who I feel like is coming a little under right now, plus 800 for Kyle Larson. It seems like the books are maybe overlooking him. I don't know if that number is going to come down, but what do you feel about Larson here? Starting, where's he at? Starting 15th. So some PD here, a guy who's always fast, right? You have any interest in Kyle Larson? Where would he rank for Dominators tonight, tomorrow night, whenever?
He led 144 laps in the spring. He was really fast in the spring. But he kind of falls into that Denny Hamlin thing where he's the guy starting in the teams. Now he's the one that has the place control. But if he doesn't lead 150, 200 laps, does it really matter? And so I do think he has the potential to score well. I think he has potential to finish top 5. He's obviously pretty strong here at Richmond overall. Won here in the spring of 2023, finished third here earlier this year. He has a bunch of other good, solid finishes. I don't think it's a track where he necessarily dominates. Like it's not an intermediate style like Kansas where it's just like, no, we're going to Kansas or Homestead and we know Larson's a guy. I think he's just really good here. And considering that I don't think HMS will have the speed that JGR does, I think he's more of like a 5th place guy. with some fast lap equity, with the potential to win if everything clicks. So I think he can be good. I don't lean towards that. I think he's more of a guy that's going to score like 55 points and not really pay off the price. But who says he doesn't finish third with 30 fast laps and Martin Truex wrecks out? Like there's other ways that it could hit too. I definitely will use him as a pivot off of those guys more than anything. Like he's not someone I want to invest heavily in, but where I'm like, okay, I have 50% Truex, 60% Truex. Maybe I want to pivot to Larson here or something. Like that's the way I'll use him in this type of slate. But definitely a contrarian play for me. I think he'll score well. I just don't think he has the upside necessarily, at least at this point. It's Kyle Larson really sketchy to say, oh, I don't think he's going to do it. But I don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, well, just to the end, just a little. Obviously, we know Larson's fast, but I think the other point about Larson is the opposite of the Truex situation. His crew truth, I feel like they always, are doing the right thing with getting, and especially in green flag pit stops, they always seem to like, where the hell did Larson come from? How did he get there? So I think he's going to be in play. I think to get to the lead within, by stage 2, who knows with how cautions and the way that team works, right? So he's always going to be a threat to lead. But still, he's got to compete with those GAGR guys, right? We've already talked about Hamlin. We've already talked about Truex. Those guys are going to gobble up some fast laps, lead lap sled. And, a guy who I think is one of, a guy who I think is a great play this week as well, the other JGR guy there, price at 10-3, Christopher Bell. We talked about Truex, only being optimal 2 of 5, Hamlin not being optimal. Bell has been optimal in 3 of 5, Richmond races, and his average starting position here in these races have been 21.8. So he typically does not qualify well. And this week he's showing up, qualifying, really good top 5. He still has the 5th best average finish, 4th best in average fast laps. Guy's really good here. When he doesn't qualify, now he's starting towards the front. Like, I want to be really over on Christopher Bell this week. Am I crazy?
No, I think Bell's the perfect pivot off of Truex and Hamlin. Truex and Hamlin are going to swallow up ownership. It's going to be extremely high. Bell has the same potential, and he's going to come in, I would think, 10% less owned, maybe 15% less owned of these guys. And so I think you can get some ownership leverage here on a guy that's really, really good. Now, historically, Bell has not been as good as these two here. Like, Truex and Hamlin have years of lap sled and dominance and being the guys to beat here, at least in terms of laps led and Dominator points. I mean, Truex led 193 laps in 2016 and has done that. He led over 100 laps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times and has led 80 laps 2 more times. Like, you got a guy that 10 times in the last 15 races has led 80 or more laps, right? Like, that's just something we can really sink our teeth into and remember. Bell's done it like once here. Now, it's Christopher Bell. It's short, flat tracks. It's something that he's obviously really good at. We see it with New Hampshire. We see it with Gateway earlier this year where he should have won if not for the motor laying down on him. He's obviously strong on this track type. He hasn't been amazing here in the Cup Series, but he's run top 5 or 6 pretty much every race. So we know he'll be there. We know he's starting up front. I think he'll run top 5 all day, and I do think he can get his car right at the right time and lead some laps and be the guy to upset Truex or Hamlin. So I really love him as not necessarily a primary Dominator target because I think the other two are so obvious. But to get off them, to leverage some ownership, I do think Bell's like the 3rd best choice. I think you'll get a better ownership number on him.
So you like Bell over Larson?
Yes, I like Bell over Larson. Bell's number 3 for me. I think those 3 JGR guys are the ones to beat.
All right, I like it. Let's move on down the list here. I think we got a good start on those Dominator plays. Let us know if we run into anybody else who can offer those as we work through here. What about Ryan Blaney? You mentioned Richmond's not really a track for Blaney. Not really good at the high tire wear tracks. He has led laps here, had some fast laps here in the spring. Any interest in Blaney this week starting 11th?
No, I mean, when you look at his finishes, he has 1 top 10. Or 2 top 10s. Sorry, one was a 10th place finish. He got the pole here in 2022. And dominated the first part of that race and finished 7th. But other than that, it's been a lot of finishes like 15th, 14th, 19th. Like, he's just not great here. Even though Penske has had one of the best short flat track programs dating back for years, he just hasn't been good here. And I don't think he's got the upside to pay off 9,800. If he was like 8,800, I could be like, okay, maybe he finishes fifth in a great day, so we'll consider him. I don't see how he pays off 9,800. He can have 20 fast laps and not really factor in. So I'm really off of Ryan Blaney there. I don't see the point in paying for that play. That's going to be poor for sure.
We're going to chalk him up on that. All right,
Chalk him up.
Let's move on. Guy mentioned chalk earlier. Brad Keselowski, right? No brainer play here. Starting 29th. If you're looking to spend up for PD, are you spending up for PD though in a race like this?
Yes, I think Brad's and the biggest reason is because it's Brad, because he's a guy that can get me fast laps, that can get towards the front. He's not a guy I'm projecting to finish 17th. He's a guy that's finished top 10 the last 3 races here, right? He led 102 laps in this race last year. He was very, very strong here in the spring. He's always good at Richmond. He's amazing at high tower tracks. And if I can get 50 points out of him and he finishes like 10th or 8th, and I compare him with 2 Dominators, I think I'm in a really good spot. And then his upside 60 some points, depending on fast laps and how that shakes out. So I'm a big fan of that play. 9,600's not too expensive. I mean, 9,500 is right where I consider the stud plays to be, and that's right where he is. And so I like if you can get him paired in with those 2 Dominators, that's a great guy to round things out. And obviously he's a cash lock.
So you have no problem starting Hamlin, Truex, Keselowski. Yeah, I guess the fact that we have a 400 lap race and nobody priced over 11K, it does seem a little odd, right? And I think we do have some guys priced below 5K. So yeah, I think you could definitely make that work on this slate. I don't have anything to add to Brad Keselowski. Yeah, obvious play there. Both him and his teammate, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly, were both pretty fast in practice as well, as far on the long run it looked like. So, yep. Okay, we got to speak of the teammates. We have 2 teammates here to talk about, not 9,400 and 9,200, right? We have Byron and Elliott. Is it similar thoughts with these guys as Larson that they just probably don't have the speed to compete with the JGR guys for leading laps and fast laps, which is what you need for where they start the price?
Yeah, Byron's kind of in that no man's land for me. Like he probably runs fucking 9th. Like I don't really know. He's not great here by any means. Like he's just not. I just don't really like the play. He has random Dominator ability, but where he starts, it doesn't really interest me. Elliott does, because I think Chase Elliott is a top 5 guy pretty consistently here. He's a guy that is good at high tower tracks. He is a guy that shows that speed. It's just the lack of Dominator potential is what scares me.
9,200, he's got to score those. He's got to score fast laps. He just hasn't done it here. Right?
The way I like using Elliott is still with 2 Dominators. It's almost as a pivot off of the Keselowski play.
Okay.
And it's to say, okay, maybe I get 20 or 30 fast laps from a top 5 guy and he finishes 4th. Because when you look back, in his last 10 races, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 5s, but they're all 4th or 5th place finishes. So, if he kind of finishes roughly where he starts, collects 10 points in fast laps, scores in that 50-point range, and Keselowski fails to deliver, I think 50 points from your 3rd guy in is probably what you're looking for. Maybe 50 or 60 or 55 or 60 if it's the right play. And that really depends on who it is and what they do. But for the most part, I think 50 points is kind of what you're looking for. I think the price isn't too bad. So saving 400, paying up a little bit better on the bottom end, that could work for me. And so I don't mind that play.
Yeah, I like using it. I like how you're using it as a pivot off Keselowski. I think that makes sense. Like, we know, a lot of things could happen with strategy, like you said, right, where chalk could bust. But also, he has started 29th, right? I mean, he seems to have long run speed in practice, not really short run. If it's a long green flag, can he even, he might lose the lead lap even on early, right? Could cap his upside early, so you never know. So it does make sense to pivot. Let's move on down. Talk about Joey Logano here, Ryan Blaney's teammate. How do you feel about Joey Logano? I think he can be kind of sneaky this week.
Yeah, Logano's great here. In the spring, we got him at a ridiculous number. He's like plus money to finish top 10. I was like, what? That doesn't make sense. Joe Logano's been a top 10 guy damn near every race. He's finished, 2nd here in the spring, 4th this race last year. He's definitely a top 5 contender. He's definitely someone I think will click off some fast laps. The concern is upside. It's basically going to be like, okay, how much can I get from him? The thing I like about this play more than, say, the Elliott play is that, one, I feel a lot better about Joe Logano finishing top 5 or 6 or so, because he just does it almost every time out here. But not only that is the short flat track program for Penske has been really good this year, right? Like he won at Northwest World All-Star Race. You saw the whole Penske game at Gateway run incredibly well. You've seen them at Phoenix the last 2 years. We've seen the Penske short flat track program be fantastic. Logano from 9th. I think he has top 5 finishing upside. He can get some fast laps in that. It's a little bit safer than Elliott, right? Because he has those 5 extra positions of PD. And so I think he's a better fit for that 50 to 55 point range, that stud play, the pair with 2 Dominators. 9,100 is very affordable. Like that's a great spot to be in and pair with Hamlin Truex or Hamlin Bell or however you want to mix that in. But yeah, I really, really, really like the Logano play in tournaments. And this is a great example of driver's ability on a track type. I don't like Blaney, right? I don't like Ryan Blaney on this track. I don't think he has a great day. I love Joey Logano. And this really is where the driver makes a difference. And again, back to what I said all the way in the beginning, I love tracks that drivers, make an impact, have an actual impact on the slate for us. And I think Logano has a ton of potential. I love this play.
Yeah, and again, I hate to keep harping on the strategy point, but if the tire strategy stuff comes into play, I think we could trust Logano on that team. Again, they always seem to find a way to find their way up front when strategy breaks out. So you definitely like that upside. And to your point, Logano, he's been so good here. In fact, he's in the next gen era. He has second best driver rating, right? $9,100 for the guy who's been literally the second best driver rating on here in the next gen era, and he's been optimal in 3 of the last 4 races here as well, right? So like, hard not to like Logano at this price tag. Again, another guy, similar play, I feel like, right? But I think a guy who's going to draw I don't know if he's going to draw more ownership than Logano here. It might be kind of split. What do you with Chris Buescher here, last year's winner, starting 7th, looks to have speed and practice. I personally think he's going to get the bump and might be higher owned than Logano here. But tell me just what your general thoughts, how you like him in comparison to Logano.
Man, I really don't know. Like, I'm not very high on Buescher in this spot because I think his upside's a little more capped. I don't think he's as good as all those other guys. But, like, if he finishes 5th, no one would be surprised. So he falls into the same type of play for sure. I do think you're right. He probably gets a bigger bump because of last year and because of some other things. But I don't love the play by any means. I think it's a good play. So I will certainly be underweight on it. I much prefer to go to Logano route. I even prefer to go to Reddick route, even though I don't think he's as good. And a lot of that's just because I don't think Buescher leads. And starting 7th, I don't know what his actual upside is. And so you're very dependent on just random fast laps and a top 4 finish, which I don't know if he does at a high rate. So I'm just not in love with that play.
Okay. Do you prefer Buescher over Chase or under Chase?
Under Chase, because I think Chase has more leading equity. More Dominator equity. I think Byron? He's just going to be better in general.
What about Buescher or Byron?
Buescher. Pricing, and I don't really like Byron at all here.
And I'm guessing Buescher over Blaney as well, pricing, right?
Yeah. Same philosophy, I guess. Yeah, I mean, It's not – I'm not really going to pay up for Blaney or Byron. I think I'd rather kind of get Buescher, who I do think will be solid. I mean, Byron's fine if you can afford him. Byron probably could finish 5th and score decently. He just hasn't really done that at any point in his career. So, yeah.
All right. Again, still in this price range, still right around 9,000 here. We're talking your boy, Red Dog. How do you like him this week? Starting 10th. It seems like it's the exact same type of play. Where would you rank his upside in comparison, at least with these Logano and Buescher?
They're fast. The key here is that they're fast, but he's not good at Richmond. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Can he finish 6th? Yes. Will he? I don't know. He finished 10th here in the spring from 19th. He doesn't carry the place differential equity that he did there. He started 1st here spring of last year, led some laps, and then finished 16th. I think the speed's there. I just don't think he's great on long runs in terms of execution, and that worries me. I do think there's 8 or 10 guys that are just better than him. It would not shock me if he was 5th, but for the most part, I think he finishes 10th. So much like Buescher, that whole group there, Elliott, Logano, Buescher, and Reddick, they all are good. They're all top 5 contenders. Logano does it at an 80% clip. Reddick's never done it. So it's really hard for me to justify it, but he's fine. Buescher and Reddick, I think, are just lower percentage tournament plays that is like, if they hit, great. If not, you don't want to be too exposed. Like if you go in there 30% on Reddick and he just misses, you're screwed. So I think it's a fine, like, just to be different type of play, but not someone I'm going to invest a lot in.
So you like Busher over Reddick then?
I think I slightly lean Reddick, but it's 50-50. Like I'm indifferent. The thing, and we should probably speed this whole podcast up a little bit, but really? I was doing projections and trying to put out like ownership projections, and I'm like, man, I'm just low on all these guys. And that made me think that like there's not a lot of great plays. Like you look up and down, there are not a lot of obvious plays. Next up, we got Bowman, Gibbs, Busch, and Chastain, right? Bowman's probably the best play in this whole range because he has play differential equity. Gibbs has been awful here in his short career, even though the Gibbs cars have been strong. So it's hard to trust him. Kyle Busch starting 12th on a short flat track, we don't want any part of at this point with RCR. Ross Chastain has been awful the last few months. He's not good at this track or short flat track. So, I can go all the way up from really Chase Elliott, William Byron, Ryan Blaney, all the way down here to Ross Chastain and end up with two guys that I really feel confident in, right? It's Brad Keselowski and it's Joey Logano. Aside from that, I'm like, they could, and that part kind of worries me. I think Bowman's the best because high tire tracks he's shown. He's won a race here. He won at Chicago. We've seen that with him, the progression. He won at California. He obviously has, if he can get into a rhythm, the ability to run good, finish top 10. He's got a ton of top 10 finishes. Bowman's the best in this range. Gibbs, you would think, JGR car, he'd be good. Look at where he's finished the last 2 months. It's not good. He's not getting results, and some of that's motors blowing up and stuff. But then
he was 10,000 when we were here last in the spring. He was 10,000.
Oh, that was astronomically stupid. Yeah, I remember. 16. So his finishes are 9th, 15th, and 16th in a JGR car while his teammates are dominating and winning. I mean, this is just a young driver who's going up against the best of the best who have decades-long experience at this track, and he is. It's a learning thing, right? Like you can't go up against Logano here; he's going to wax you. And so, I do think Gibbs could work out. I do think he could finish top 10. I'm just not as confident in it. Bowman feels a little bit better. Busch, I don't really like. Chastain, I don't really like. So there's just this whole group where it's like, eh. And then you get to Barry and Bubba, and I'm like, okay, Barry was good here in the spring. I do think Barry could run top 8. I do think Barry can get fast laps. I do think Barry at 7,800 is a fine play. Bubba Wallace, I think, will have speed. I do think he can finish top 8. I do think he can score points. And I'm like, but how comfortable am I in Josh Berry and Bubba Wallace from 3rd and 8th? Like, how comfortable can you actually be? And so even we keep going down the list. It's tough to get really high on any of these guys. And so to an extent, it kind of comes into like, hey, just play who you like. Play who you feel that, I like Barry. I think Barry's actually going to be good. I'm going to play Barry in tournaments, but he's starting 3rd. Dude finishes 11th is a bad play. Finishes 9th, it might even be a bad play. So there's just this kind of like.
We ain't playing him to start 9th and then to finish 9th. You ain't playing him to finish 9th. You're playing him because he's going to finish 3rd, top 5.
You're playing him to finish like top 5. And he finished 3rd. Well, New Hampshire is the rain shit, but I don't know. Like, it's just a tough slate from that standpoint because the whole middle range is just wonky. You kind of get baited into playing Gibbs or baited into playing Reddick and Busher because like they're really good or whatever you want to think mentally. But at the end of the day, are they? And so it's a weird slate. I think this whole mid range you can kind of do what you want personally. Like if you feel really good about someone, great. I don't have a stand.
Tell us who we want to play. Tell us who to play.
People have to make up their own decisions. I can't just say the 6 best plays.
Tell me who to play in this range. Okay, so you like the best. Okay, outside of Keselowski and Logano, who's the obvious plays. Your next favorite is Alex Bowman, if I'm interpreting this correctly.
Yeah, it will actually be Josh Berry if we're including them, but Berry then Bowman.
Berry, okay. I love Berry too, right? Let's talk about Berry. Like, what do you like about Berry? Because people don't know, right, about Berry's goodness here.
Well, he's a short track ace, right? Like that's his specialty. This team ran amazing here with Kevin Harvick, and then Josh Berry was amazing here in the spring. He actually took the lead at one point. Like he showed elite speed. He didn't get the finish. He didn't get the finish he deserved necessarily, but he was really, really strong. Got up to second. Yeah, got up to second at the end of stage 2, and he had a ton of fast laps. Like at the first stage, he was the fastest guy. He drove to the front. He started 30th and was 9th by the end of stage 1. He was the fastest guy in that first stage. And then just kind of faltered there at the very end. But I think Barry is a legit top 5 contender. So from a tournament standpoint, to be a little bit different, I think people will be kind of on him just because there's not a lot of obvious options. I do think, people are kind of wise to the fact that, this team, this driver, and everything at Richmond can be good. But it's also a guy starting third that people aren't going to be super comfortable with. So I don't know how high that ownership will be. I do like the play, though. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then, Bubba as a pivot off of those guys makes a lot of sense too. Because he has a fast car. He was good here a couple times here recently. He's shown the speed to potentially win. So I do like that play, and I do think he can win, win you a slate as well with a top 5 finish.
Does Bubba probably place behind Bowman? All right, is it Barry, Bowman, Bubba, or is there anybody else you'd like above? So you would just play Bubba over Ross, over Kyle, over Ty.
Yeah, God, yes. I don't like Ross. I don't like Kyle. I don't like those guys at all. Yeah, definitely in on Bubba over those guys. The issue with Bubba Wallace is always stupid mistakes, right? Like not getting.
So you're not falling for Ross's practice speeds.
Yeah, like he started 5th in this race last year, led 80 laps. He was strong and then finished 12th. It's like stop throwing away races. But I know the upside's there. I know the speed's somewhat there. It's just delivering in the race.
Okay, let's circle back to Ross Chastain real quick because he's 7,900, starting 22nd, and looks really fast in practice speeds. He's pretty fast in practice. So, for that price and that Chastain.
Yeah, we have this conversation every time. He's fastest in practice every single week, and then he runs 20th.
This is fast, like long run speed, though, right? This isn't like fast.
I don't care. I do long run speed. We got guys on soft tires. We got guys on normal tires. We got guys in Group A. We got guys in Group B. It doesn't matter. Like practice speeds at this point are almost irrelevant.
He's less than 8,000 though, too. Like he's cheap now, right?
He's 8,000 because he sucks.
Man, he's just burying him. Okay, I see.
His only top 10 since Iowa was in the rain at New Hampshire. So I guess if it rains, yeah, sure. Let's go with it.
Okay. Iowa, though, that's kind of comparable to where we're at.
Yeah, he was 11th. Okay, so you're right. I'm being too harsh. He could finish top 15 and score like 40 points. Yes, fine. I don't think it's an awful play. But I don't think he's a top 10 contender, and he hasn't been good here to make me think that he's going to actually finish top 10, finish top 12, put up a good score. I just don't think that's the case.
Well, he's the guy who I think he is going to garner ownership. So I think, that is if we're that disgusted in Ross Chastain, I think it does give you a good point to get some leverage and just totally fade his ass then, right?
I think there's the potential to not be on him, for sure. I don't know, man. I'm anti Ross. He's starting 22nd. The upside is that he finishes 12th and scores 40 points. They're 42 points. That's totally possible. But if he runs 15th or 18th, which is probably where I project his realistic upside to be, that's mediocre. If he runs 18th to 22nd, which is where his speed probably indicates, it's a bad day. So I think you're hoping for something out of him if you're playing more so than knowing that's a good play, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm watching this truck race with 36 to go. Corey Heim, not even in the ballpark all race, is about to win this thing.
Of course he is.
Dude, this dude is he wasn't even in the ballpark. Enfinger struggling a little bit on long runs is starting to come back to him. Heim's catching him pretty fast. Majeski's 0.2 a lot faster, but he got caught in traffic so much that he's still 3 seconds back. It's crazy. If Corey Heim wins this race, he has no business winning this race.
Wild. Oh, I see Stephen Parsons in the top 20. Awesome. I have 0 of that guy.
Yeah, I figure that might be the case with Parsons. If he had an okay race, it'd be about 20th. It's not a big deal. It's 32 points or something. Decent for the price, but not great.
All right.
Yeah, go on.
Cup guys, where are we at here? I think we talked Bubba. Let's talk. Do you anything Cindric, Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe? Are we gonna give me an opinion on any of these guys, or this is just are we just picking on these guys as well? This is just up to us.
Sorry, it looks like Heim's right there. Yeah, McDowell's interesting. I think people are going to kind of fall into the McDowell trap again. He hasn't been very good here, but you never know when he's going to just randomly pop up, get fast laps, run strategy. I think he had 20 plus here in the spring, but he was 26th, 22nd, 29th, 30th, 28th, 27th, 25th, 21st. And then there was one random 6th place finish in there. I don't know what the 6th came from, but aside from that 6th place finish, he's been pretty bad here. I think I'm going to lean into that. He wasn't good here in the spring. Because he starts 28th, it feels okay. That was the same thing. He started 31st here in spring, finished 26th. I don't see a lot of upside. Chase Briscoe's the guy that I'm really interested in here. Chase Briscoe has been really solid here. Stuart Haas has been solid here, but 18th, 11th, 12th the last 3 races, 11th and 16th in a couple of races before that. He's a guy that has top 15 upside starting 25th. So I do like that play. 6,900, good price. I think we're going to fill out some lineups with him. A little worried that he may be the chalk of this range because of those finishes that we just ran off there. But I think Briscoe's the best play. Suarez I don't really like because he just doesn't run good here. Gregson finishes like 12th here last time. If he does that again, great. But I don't know if he does that. And then Todd Gillen, it feels like we should like Todd Gillen because he's been good this year. But he wasn't good here in the spring. I don't know how much I really expect him to finish well. It's tough. Corey Heim to the lead, 30 to go. Unbelievable.
I'm so glad. I almost bet Enfinger before the race, too, because he was like...
It's so fucking dumb.
I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so so mad right now. So in this range, with Chase Briscoe, right, as your favorite, who would be your favorite pivot off of Chase Briscoe then? Between McDowell, Suarez, Gregson, Gill.
It's getting down to Eric Jones for me. Eric Jones is just a good, solid racer who tends to run pretty decent when you give him an okay car. So it'd be Eric Jones. He finished 14th here in the spring, but it's been really hit or miss here, and it's hard because
it's been bad here, like 4 races before.
Yeah, I mean, and this is my problem with the entire slate. You got like Hocevar, LaJoie, and Zane Smith start 19th and 20th and 24th or whatever. They were awful here in the spring. That Spire was the worst group. You got like Todd Gillen and McDowell and Suarez who just weren't good here. And so instead, same thing.
Tell me why I'm just not freaking free square throwing in Justin Haley in every single lineup at 6,000 starting 36 with the way that guy's been on high tire wear tracks.
Because he finished 32nd here.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. Yeah, 32nd.
But that's the key that I want to get across now. From literally the top down. When we talk about, I'll start with Todd Gillen. Because Todd's
that is surprising that Haley's been that bad here, considering how good he is at high tire wear tracks. I feel like, but okay, Todd Gillen.
It doesn't make sense to me either. I think Haley's a fine play, but when you go from Todd Gillen down, the entire group, maybe not Priest, but this entire group have been bad here, right? They don't have good results here. And there's a reason for that. Because Richmond rewards the best teams and the best drivers. And we're talking about a group of the worst teams and the worst drivers. So
whoa.
Who do you think is really good in this range? Come on.
Worst driver. I wouldn't say Justin Haley is one of the worst drivers in the field. Like,
okay, he's on the worst team.
Okay.
Is a combination of team and driver. You don't have an elite driver or elite team. You have one or the other or not. And Justin Haley,
Carson Hocevar is like the next Jeff Gordon.
Right. And they finished. So Corey LaJoie was 36th, Zane Smith was 35th, and Carson Hocevar was 27th. How much Hocevar do I want from 19th? Now, Hocevar may run 17th or 16th and be fine. I don't know. I can't predict that. Maybe they fixed the fact that they suck shit here 3 months ago. But literally this whole group were the bottom of the race here last time. So you're talking about an entire group that were not good in the last race that we have here. I think for the most part, they're all going to just run 20th to 36th.
I know what's about to happen. Is this the point in the show where you tell me that all roads point to freaking Austin Dillon starting 6 for 5,800?
Absolutely.
Is this what you're trying to get to?
No. That's funny. My point with that is all these guys are playable. That's really my point. None of these guys are good plays. None of them. I can't sit here and say Eric Jones is a good play. Hocevar's a good play. Haley's a good play. Stenhouse, none of them are good. I'd probably say Priest is my favorite just because he's a short track guy, and Stuart Haas can sometimes be good on short flat tracks. The key to this, and I brought this up in the very beginning, is who does the wonky-ass tire strategy that gets them 20 or 25 or 30 fast laps and separates themselves from the field. That's the key to this range. It's not about who I think is going to finish 22nd instead of 27th. I think Justin Haley finishes 28th. It's an okay score, but it's not the 22nd or 20th place score you would really want from that play. But if he gets 20 fast laps because he pits off cycle, it doesn't matter. That's the key to this range. That's the key to this group. And quite frankly, that's the most random thing we can ever have because there's no way of picking who that guy's going to be. There's no way of knowing who's going to be the guy that pits off sequence, that gets the red tires on or whatever, that runs long in stage one and then gets 20 fast laps to wrap that thing up. There's going to be one or two guys that do that. And I don't know who it is. So instead of me saying Eric Jones is the best play, Justin Haley's the best, whoever, I'm going to tell you you can play the place differential game with like Haley and Stenhouse and hope that they get to the top 25 and hit, value. Or you can mix and match, spray and pray, mix in a bunch of these guys because I do think the spray and pray method is probably better than anything I can say because someone's going to do it. Someone's going to hit with fast laps and we're going to look up and be like, why the hell didn't we play them? That's annoying. And that's just the way it's going to work out.
So it sounds like if I'm reading strategy for this week from Larkin is we're basically gonna load up our ownership on the Hamlin, the Truex, the Bell, the Keselowski, the Logano's, right, and then we are just spraying and praying with the rest. Is that kind of the case?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel like. But that doesn't mean that's how it shakes out, right? Like you never know how things are necessarily going to work out when it comes to that. But yeah, that I'm really heavy on my Dominators, and so I want to get the majority Hamlin, Truex, Bell, and maybe another guy, in my Dominator pool. Then I want to start mixing in Keselowski, Logano, those guys as the stud play, and then I just want to start mixing and matching here at the bottom end. If I can get super heavy on those top guys, so. That's where my head's at. That's I think the best way to attack the slate is, and the reason why that works for me mentally is because Hamlin and Truex are like so consistent here. Like I'd be really shocked if they aren't dominating, right? If they're not, it's probably just Bell or Elliott, and those are the other two guys you're on anyways. I don't see a lot of other guys that are going to pop up. When you look at Josh Berry, if he does lead, great. He was a GPP. Like he's cheap enough to not matter. He doesn't need to lead 100 laps. And so I feel like the key to the slate is more in this bottom, 65 and under range, just getting the right two guys, getting the two guys that score 35 points and filling out your lineups.
All right. I like it. I see we had a caution here, right? And now we got Infinger is beat Heim off pit road. So, of course, because I announced that I didn't bet Infinger, now he's going to freaking win because I because that's the way the universe works.
Time of Jessica on the inside behind Sawalich on old tires, though, is sketch. That'll be interesting to see if like Majeski just boots him out of the way or what happens there. But yeah, I hope we have success with this slate. I think it's tricky on the bottom end, and it's hard for me to pinpoint anyone. I will probably lean into like a Ryan Preece type or someone I'm just a little bit more confident in on flat short tracks, but it's hard, man. Like I want to be in on Justin Haley, but what if he just runs 32nd again,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ryan Preece does look like, the guy as far as experience and performance here and vehicle and price and all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, so don't wreck him.
No, don't.
Majeski to the lead.
Majeski to the lead.
Old Lane Ray's going to pull him off for a second place finish.
You're going to wreck him to get around him with 20 laps to go, too.
Holy shit, man.
All right, let's do a core four here. I think we've talked about everybody. Let's give everybody a core four guys we can, build our lineups around this evening.
So core four, Hamlin, Truex, Keselowski, and then Joe Logano. Those are my core four. It's going to be tough to obviously put them all into a lineup together. So keep that in mind. But those are the four guys I'm going to probably be heavily invested in. Those are the guys I like the most to score really well for me.
Some combination of those guys will be optimal.
Yeah. It just feels like I feel really confident in Joey Logano. Now, that could go wrong, but he's finishing top 7 here almost every single time. I feel like I'm getting 40, 45 points, even in a mediocre race out of him. I just want to get in on that when I can. So those will be the guys I'm highest on and then kind of go from there.
All right, let's do pour four guys who we are dodging today. I know Ryan Blaney has made the cut already. We spoke about that. So give me 3 more.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney. We're dodging Austin Dillon.
Come on now.
Well, no. So a lot
That's
of
your
times
boy on a short. It's your boy, high tire. Come on.
Yeah, I just don't think he's finishing top 10. But maybe they found speed. I don't know. I will root for him. But I'm not feeling it. The next one is someone I'm going to be pretty confident in, as well as Kyle Busch. Like, I just don't think RCR is going to be in. I just don't want to invest any ownership in that guy. And then the other one is going to be William Byron. I just don't want to pay $9,400 for William Byron. I don't think he really has the equity to finish where he needs to. So I'm just not going to invest in him much at all, if any. And I know I won't, but I wouldn't. If I played 150 lineups, I'd be very, very low on that play.
No Ross Chastain on the pour 4, keeping him off of it, huh?
Just he as a play offers enough place differential and is cheap enough that I can see that working.
All right, let's do 4 more plays, guys, who might be a little lower owned than those core 4 plays. They could be
Stephen Parsons 8. Holy shit!
Oh my god! Oh, it's a wreck. Maybe Stephen Parsons. No.
Oh, Chalk Zillage just went down.
Oh, sweet.
Oh my god! All right, hold on, baby. Where am I?
Right,
P6.
Give me 4 more plays. Are you looking at where you're at?
Holy shit! I got distracted. Hold on. Sorry. I got to get back in here. Chalk Zillage. Damn. All right. 4 more. So Bell's the obvious one up top. I mean, that's the next Dominator that I'm going to be in on. Going to throw in Josh Berry as the tournament option there. I hope he's not too heavily owned, but he might end up being Chase Briscoe from 25th. I'm hoping he gets a top 15 finish out of it. I feel a little bit better about him in general compared to the rest of the range. I think he's been consistent enough at this track. And then to wrap it up, I'm gonna put in Alex Bowman.
All B's there. I think last time didn't you have all the B's on your fade list?
There's a lot of guys with the last name B, starting with the B here, for sure. In NASCAR, that's like a requirement these days.
It does seem to be. All right, man. I'm glad. Appreciate you walking through that slate for us. We got a core 4. We got the pour 4. We got the 4 more. Now we need one final thing from you. We need a winner.
Denny Hamlin. Going out on a limb, I think Hamlin's the guy to be. I don't think there's really. So I'm gonna say the obvious, and then I'm gonna pick someone else to be different because why not? Joe Logano. I think Logano's the one guy not in a JGR car that stands the best chance of winning this race. I think he's gonna be really strong. So I'm gonna throw Logano in there to be a second pick, just not to have Hamlin be on his own as a chalk play there.
I like it. Joe Logano right now, plus 1,200. Man, I'm still sitting here staring at Kyle Larson at plus 800. I'm like, man, that seems like hey, if you can get Kyle Larson at plus 100, you just gotta bet it. Like, I don't care where they're at. It's not Daytona. Like, it seems crazy to me. I don't know. All right, let's wrap it up, man. Tell everybody where they can find you at. I don't think we're gonna have another show until is it Daytona? I think it might be Daytona.
I don't know. We may add one. I can talk you into it. But yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll obviously I'll create some stupid graphic and we'll send out tweets whenever we decide we're going to do one. But yeah, dailyfanracing.com, premium content, 20% off the rest of the year if you want that. That's pinned on my Twitter account or it's in the Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, jump in there. It's kind of, we never talk about that, but definitely do that. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you're still here at this point, you're a pretty big fan. So if you're not already subscribed, please do so. And that's it. Yeah, check out the discounts if you want to sign up. If not, like and subscribe. All right. Thanks, everybody. You can follow me at DFS NASCAR if you want to see some fishing pictures and some stuff like that. Pictures of my family. That's about it. All right. See you guys. Thank you.